us, and Yom Hashoah is definitely a much heavier time. But everything that Dita touches turns to gold, G-O-L-D, not G-O-U-L-D. And she has an amazing way of having gone through an incredibly difficult life experience and coming out so positive. And she really internalized and grew from her experiences. And hopefully she will share some of those experiences with us tonight. And some of them will be very sad, and some of them will also be very meaningful, and hopefully a growing experience for all. So over to you, Dita. Dita, you there? Hey, Dita. Can everyone else hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, there we go, Dita. We can see you.
And you.
There we go.
Anyway, thank you very much for the introduction, although I hardly heard it. I have been to speak to one of your gorgeous groups before, and I'm glad to have this opportunity during commemoration for the Shoah to tell you my story of how I survived as a little girl. First, I want to tell you that that I was a very well-loved young daughter of the household, and I had a little sister. She was 6.5 when bedtime started for us. From living a normal life like you would have lived when you were young, suddenly we started to have restrictions. Couldn't go to my Jewish school anymore. We were lucky that my father had the wisdom to leave our little town where everybody knew us, and we moved to Budapest when things got bad for the Jews in the town, and everyone knew him there. So we found ourselves in Budapest. I went to Jewish school. I was a religious girl because my hometown was a very religious town with the yeshiva and the young people studying there. So we celebrated all our holidays, beautiful, the way we lived, the way we thought that people will live once we'll have our own country. Anyway, the restrictions came, and suddenly we had to wear the yellow star, which was the most scary thing for me. It was like being branded. Anybody could do anything to me in the streets or wherever. But that was only the beginning. Then we were ordered out of our lovely apartment and were sent to what was called in Budapest Yellow Star houses. So you moved into with another family where there were a lot of Jews in the building already. We were fortunate that we were sharing our place with a spinster, and so 5 of us could live very well together. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can see you and hear you.
Oh, it's good. I can see some of the youngsters. Is that your son, daughter next to you? Can I see some more? Yeah, gorgeous. Lovely. Yes, well, how old are you?
I'm
the little
10.
one. How? 10?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was that age when what I'm talking to you about. I was 10 years old when all this started. Yeah. Can you imagine at the age of 10, you can't go to school, but I could still go to the library. And so we read lots of books, and I made a friend in the building, and she and I planned something that we're going to make a bazaar. So we made lots of things. We were quite smart. We used to sit on the stairs because it was a 4-story building. And we told 2 young women that what we are planning to do. And they gave us materials, and we sewed, and we helped the man to make envelopes in the downstairs, and he gave us the ones that he couldn't sell. And we collected and collected, and one of the young women was an artist, so better things that we sewed, she painted on it. Finally, we thought we have enough things, and we put up a big placard for the people living in the building that there's going to be a bazaar. And we were very excited. We thought we'll make money, and we thought we will make maybe 5 pangers. And then she decided she wants to give the money to some Jewish orphanage. And I said, okay. When we had the bazaar, the people streamed out of the 4-story building, which was twice as many people as before. And we sold everything. And one woman came just to change money, and she gave us a 5-panger tip. And at the end of the day, we had 200 pangers, and we didn't know what to do with it. So half of it went to the orphanage, and the other half I wanted to go to the Jewish Communal Center and send it off to an uncle who was also in forced labor camp, like all the Hungarian Jewish men were. And they were starving them to death because they said they wouldn't eat non-kosher meat. Well, there was no meat anyway. It was just a trumped-up charge. And I went with my father, waited for him to have leave of absence, and we went to the Jewish Communal Center. So then as we were entering the gardens, there was a wedding going on, and I was fascinated. Didn't think that in those days people were still getting married under a chuppah. As we were walking, a man approached my father. We were so happy to see each other because he was actually from my father's squadron. He was taken to the Russian front, and he looked very gaunt and thin. So I noticed that when they shook hands, my father had money in his palm, and it stayed in the other man's hand. We said goodbye, and we did what we wanted. We sent the money off. My father had a very good friend who was a Jewish lady. He went to school with her originally, and she was an angel. She helped everybody. She had an office in the glass house, which was a place where everyone came for help of all kinds of reasons. And she also had an office in the ghetto. So she won my father used to bring her things that she could bribe people with, whatever. So at one stage she said to my father, the children have to be hidden because next step will be the ghetto. And she arranged for us to go to a place. And my father took me and my little sister, and I begged him to include my girlfriend and her little brother, who was younger than my sister, that we should all hide together. So we went to the place, and she waited till about 4 a.m. to put us in a taxi, and other children were also getting in the taxi. And we were taken to the outskirts of town, where a hospital was being built, owned by a Jewish and a non-Jewish doctor. They left the rubble outside as if the building was not finished. So we were planning what we're going to do in a hiding place. But when we arrived there, we could hardly find the place. There were only 2 candles in the big room, and we couldn't hardly find a spot for ourselves on the floor. But after a while, we settled in. They built bunks, and we all were in a room, and made ourselves busy making things again because Hanukkah was coming. And my father came several times to visit how we are. And he was the only parent who came. But I got sick, I got very sick, and I was taken down to the infirmary. My sister stayed upstairs. And one night we heard from the office of the doctors that Nazis came in. They tried to appease them because they discovered us. And the doctors gave them drinks and money. But unfortunately, it all didn't help. And in the morning, we were ushered out. They said I could stay in the hospital, but I didn't want to. I wanted to go to my sister. So we packed a few things. And when I went in, it wasn't winter yet, but and I lent my shoes to a big girl, and she wouldn't give them back to me. So I only had summer shoes to walk in. And this was the 13th of December, 1944. So we gathered outside, and finally from 8 o'clock in the morning, we started trekking. And we were walking the whole day. It was dark when we arrived in the ghetto. I couldn't carry all our luggage, so somebody came along on a bike, said that they would carry it in front of them for us. And I only had a few biscuits in my shoulder bag. Anyway, we arrived in the evening in the ghetto. And first of all, we were taken into a market hall, which had a very big crate as you entered and steps to go up, and we had to throw all our valuables in. So that's what we did, and then they told us to go up to the first floor, and there was an empty room there, so we all sat on the floor. And some of the older children, as we were going, raided the kitchen and took some tins of meat. So they wanted to share it with us, but I said to my sister, we can't have it because it's not kosher. We were the only two children who didn't have any meat. Can you still hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you perfectly.
Can you hear me?
Every word, Dita.
Okay,
we can
so
hear
I'll
you
continue.
perfectly.
Are there older children there too?
There are a lot.
Are there students there too?
Yes, a lot. There's a lot.
Oh, well, okay, I'll keep on going if it's okay with you.
Dita, there are 50,
anyway,
52
in the
people
morning, when
listening.
we woke up, a terrible sight befell us because all the other children who ate from the meat, they were all sick in the night. We slept through everything because we were so tired. You see that those tins of meat had to be cooked for half an hour in boiling water, but we didn't know that. So we were the only children healthy. So we were given a job, I was given a job to cut people's hair. And I think that's where I caught my lice. In my beautiful long hair with two plaits. And so in the morning, the two girls who were from our hiding place were looking for their relatives because whoever had relatives could go and visit them. And we didn't have relatives because we came from the provinces. And the woman who hid us, who's such a wonderful human being, found these two children crying in the street at night, cold as can be, and asked them what they're doing. And they said where they were coming from. And she asked, were the Deutsch children with you? And they said, yes. And they said, we don't know where our relatives live. So she said, give me their names. And tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, come to such and such an address in the ghetto, where there's next to the soup kitchen. So next morning, the laws have changed and we couldn't go to a hiding place, to leave that building. So we hid downstairs, and while they were questioning somebody else, we snuck out. So we walked to that address, but this was morning, about 11 o'clock, and we had to wait till 3 o'clock for our Savior to meet us. It was freezing cold. We smelled the food from the soup kitchen, and I went in and begged them to give us something to eat, or at least let us stand behind the door so we wouldn't be freezing. But they said, no, this is for elderly people, get out of here. So we're standing plastered to the wall, and suddenly I see a man passing by. And I hung on to his shirt sleeve and I said, Mister, I know you. And he said, who are you? I said, my name, and I'm a daughter of Landor Deutsch, and this is my little sister. Well, without a word, he picked up my sister, and we, the two girls and I, followed him into the soup kitchen, where he ordered for them to bring us soup, and he gave us 2 rolls. It was very spicy cabbage soup, and it was hard for us to eat it on an empty stomach, and I wouldn't eat both the rolls. I only used one of them. So, but then he stayed with us until Sarah, our Savior, came back, and they discussed what to do with us. So Sarah gave the 2 girls her relatives' address, and she put us in a neighbor's room to lie down and rest. When we did it, first of all, I said to my sister, we have to Krishna-Leinen, which we did every night. And the man came in furious that this is his room, we had to go out. But when he saw us praying, he backed out and he let us sleep. So in the night, they woke us up because this man who was with my father in forced labor camp, he worked in the SS headquarters in the Hotel Galliard. The SS gave him flour, and every day he'd bring it to the bakers in the ghetto, the Jewish bakers, and they would make rolls out of it. And in the night, he would take the rolls back so the Nazis had fresh rolls. So he put us into an empty sack of flour, my sister and I, and smuggled us out of the ghetto. You can't imagine how important that was, not unheard of. And in that hotel, there were quite a number of Jews working for the SS, forced labor camp. And they somehow bribed somebody to give us a room in which to hide. That is, those men who had wives and children, and they used to bring them food, and the wives cooked it even. It was a room that there were no windows, and but we were the only children without a mother. And when our Savior brought us in there, we actually came in the night, very early in the morning, and he saw that we were brought black coffee, and on the saucer there was capsicum and a carrot or something like that. So he thought that we were being fed, but that's the only food that they brought us. So it was very difficult to live like that, because I was too afraid to say this odd occasion that he came in with a couple of rolls for each of us. We were really starving. And of course, the other people, they didn't have such food that they could share it with us. So we were going downhill, no air, no food, and we were very lethargic. We all sat on our mattresses. There were as many people as mattresses on the floor. And I just had to stay calm and look after my sister as best as I could. Anyway, one day I became very desperate, and I decided to have a look in my rucksack whether I could have something that I could barter. So I had a look and I shook everything. I thought, I'll see if something falls out, maybe I'll be lucky. Because during the week, there was someone who used to come in from the back and bring a tray of vanilla slices, and he stole them. He must have stolen them and made good profit on us. And when I shook my school report, which when my mother sent it into to our first hiding place, she put money into it. I didn't open it because I knew what there was in it. And that was my luck, because if I would have known I had money, I would have thrown it into that big crate where we came into the ghetto. So I had money, and we started to live off vanilla slices, which was not bad at all after smelling it and being hungry for it. Can you still hear me?
Yes,
can you still hear me?
We can still hear you. Dita, we can still hear you. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Technical difficulties. Emma, do you want to try? You were saying.
Hello?
Yeah. Great. We can hear you. Perfect.
I can hear you. Can you still see me?
We can see you and we can hear you.
I can't see you anymore. Shall I continue?
Definitely. We can hear you perfectly and we can see you.
Everyone give her a thumbs up.
Emma, do you want to try? She seemed to be able to hear you.
Stopped. Anyway, we stayed there. Once I had something to eat, we were happy.
Dita, we can see you.
Hello?
We can see you perfectly. We can see you.
I can barely hear you, but I know you are there. I can't see your photo or mine either, but I'll continue if you like.
Yes,
so
we can hear you.
There, and things were good once we had what to eat. We were safe. We were in a room which had no windows. Nobody could see us. But one day, 2 nuns came because my parents finally reunited and they wanted us with them. So my father used to look out the door. From inside the front door, there was a glass panel on the side, and he watched the street, see who was passing. By then there was bombing and they were in a terrible place, really very dangerous, on the banks of the Danube. And he observed that at the same time, every day, 2 nuns were passing by. So one day when there was no one else in the street, he ran out and pulled them into the doorway, told them that they are starving, whether the nuns could bring them something to eat. They did the next day. And then he said to them, please get in touch with Sarah and find out where my children are, which they did. And when she told them where they are, where we are, they came for us and took us to our parents. It was terrible to be out in the street. It was bombing from the other side of the river and from above. but we finally made it. We had to cross a bridge. We finally made it to be together with our parents, and they were waiting for us downstairs because they knew that the nuns are bringing us. And my saddest moment was when they hugged my sister and they didn't recognize me. Where was my long hair? And this was half of me left. and I was terrified of the bombing. So my father kept going out, and Mom and I were in the air raid shelters. And I wish I would have been back in the safe place, which was SS headquarters. But we were actually saved by the Russians in that house, not before the SS came and chased us out of the house. There were 500 Jewish people hiding in that house. And my father made a trick. He picked up my sister, who was very small, and when the soldiers were trying to stop us from going back into the house, he said typhoid, and they parted, and there was only 4 families who went back to that house, and we were saved by the Russian soldiers who came for us. So it's a happy ending. But after the war, I found out that unfortunately no one survived in that room. We were hiding in SS headquarters. There was a fire there, and no one got out, and they didn't know that there was this hiding place. I took the manager of the hotel into the room, and he couldn't believe it. They never heard this, because they don't want to talk about what they did during the war.
We can still hear you, Dita, and see you. Oh, now we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Now we can, I think.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
Okay, well, that's the end of the story. I made it short and sweet, but I want to tell you, people, always be aware. Doesn't matter how good life is, you must be aware of danger. I was so sensitive to it. And you see, a month ago, we didn't have Corona. Disaster can befall you anytime, anywhere. And you have to be strong and believe that things will be good. That's what I always believed, being optimistic about the future and to do only good deeds. Don't waste your time on bad things. Nothing good can come of it. That's my message to you. And I hope we meet each other in better times when we can see each other.
Thank you, Dita.
Hello?
Emma, do you want to speak? For some reason, I think she can't hear me. I don't know why, but Emma, do you want to speak?
No, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. We
but
can
I
see
can't
you.
see you now.
You can't see us. Okay, we could see you before. Does anyone have any questions? Is it okay if people ask you questions, Dita?
Yes, it's fine. How many of you is there?
There's 52 people here, I think, somewhere
Oh, I
around.
don't believe it. Oh, how wonderful. Yes, please ask me any questions.
I don't know. Does anyone feel free to jump in and ask questions? Dita is more than happy.
I have a question.
Yes.
Dita, can you talk a bit about your life post-war? About maybe if you immigrated or in those years after the war.
You mean to move to Australia?
Yeah.
When I came to Australia. Well, yes, you see, the problem was that even after the war, no one wanted to accept us. We had papers in 1941 to go to America because my mother's brother and sister, one brother and one sister, got to America in 1939, and they arranged papers for us in 1941. But you had to wait for your number of the affidavit to come through, and our number just never came through. So someone, my father's friend, came to Australia, and he arranged for us to have papers. Don't imagine, in 1948 is when we could get out of Czechoslovakia. The war ended in 1945. From 1941 to 1948, can you imagine the things that we had to suffer just to get away? Not just the Holocaust, but the Russian occupation. But my father always managed to be a step ahead. And we managed to get out in 1948. We drove through the border. My father bribed someone at the border of Czechoslovakia and Germany. And we drove all the way to Switzerland. We stayed in Switzerland for 6 weeks, and then we found out that we have to come to Australia via France. And that's what we did. When we arrived in Australia, I was 14 and a half. My father was sick from the Holocaust. He couldn't go to do physical work, so my mother and I went to factories and we were sewing. After 8 months in the country, my father established a wafer biscuit factory, and we all started to work in it. He was able to deliver the goods we made. We bought machinery in Switzerland. And so I was the production. and we did very well. We couldn't make enough goods. Mom was packing too, and my father delivered the goods in the car that we brought from Czechoslovakia. Ours was the first. I didn't have any formal education because up till the time I came here, I did schooling in several languages and never very successfully. But it didn't matter because I was happy, because my father promised me that when we'll have X amount of money, we'll go to Israel. I wasn't happy in Australia at first because all my friends from my hometown all went to Israel. But then life became better, and I married and I had 3 sons, and life was normal. Previously, I never even lived for 2 years in any one place or any one country. And now here we had a house, the children were happy, we were in South Caulfield, they could play in the street, and we lived there for 11 years. So some sort of normality came into my life. And all my children went to Jewish school. My parents helped us pay for half the things. And they all grew up beautiful sons. And now I have 5 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. And besides that, I started a gallery. I went to work in a gallery at first, and I was good at it. I was just natural. And eventually I set myself up with my son, my middle son, in Turak Road, South Yarra. And I had a very good reputation, and I dealt with people who came to the gallery and with a lot of the dealers. And even today, I can go to any gallery or antique shop and just say I'm Dita Gould, and I'm treated like a queen. So I made my mark in Australia. Now I'm busy raising money for charity, mainly for Israel. I've been involved in a lot of organizations, and I have to tell you something that happened this week. I was voted JNF Collector of the Year. And first it was for Victoria, and 2 days ago, I was told it's for Australia, which hardly ever happens in Victoria. So this Thursday, I'm going to be interviewed also by the JNF. And apparently there's going to be an article in the Jewish News this week about me getting this honor. Unfortunately, we can't celebrate it very much, but for me, the honor is very great. So that's my life in Australia. Can you hear? Hello?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And Mazel Tov on the honor. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been collecting for 55 years.
Yeah.
What's the next question? Hello? Is there someone else?
Any other questions from anyone? No. Dita, just maybe just from my interactions with you, you have a lot of positivity, and you went through a lot of difficult scenarios, and I think like a lot of the maybe young people on the call are struggling with what's going on, being alone at home. And I guess if you have maybe any advice or any, what's your secret to dealing with, the difficulties that you went through or go through, or, I know when I spoke to you, said you're completely alone and been isolated. It's not like you're in your house on your own.
Right.
So
in our flat, yes.
Yeah.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, life means more than anything. When one of my sons was very concerned that I should live here by myself, and he invited me to come and live with him or in a holiday house in Frankston with my grandson and his wife and baby. And I felt that that's too dangerous, that I would be causing danger to them. And so I was adamant, and I said to them, look, when I was hiding during the Holocaust, we were in total darkness all the time, and we had no food. Now I can sit out on my balcony. I have plenty of food in my fridge and freezer, and this is not such a difficult thing for me. Yes, you can see that even now, while I'm housebound, I still do good things, because I did my JNF collecting by ringing my people from home. And so I'm still involved in lots of other things, and I'm not bored. I can get on my computer. People are ringing me all the time. And most important thing now is to be kind to each other. A good phone call from somebody means a lot. And there's lots of good things you can do even in these times. If you don't get yourself, I'm fortunate to be an optimist and knowing that it will be good. Somebody up there loves me and I'm protected. So the youngsters also, being desperate won't help you. Looking at what you can do will help you and everyone else around you.
Thank you, Dita. Amazing. You really are amazing. Really a very inspiring person.
Don't think I think you're amazing, and I'm only too happy to do anything you ask of me.
Thank you, Dita. Okay, anyone else have any other questions or? No? Okay. Thank you, Dita, for putting up with all the technology. And I know
I'm so sorry that it didn't work out so well, but
no, for 90% of it,
it.
we saw you and we could hear you, and I know it doesn't feel like that when you're speaking on Zoom. It's hard.
Now I can hear you better, so I'm very, very grateful for that. Yes. So I didn't want to make it a long story. It's all in a nutshell. but it's a very good way for me to commemorate Holocaust Memorial Day, because we couldn't get together with anybody, and this is my contribution to it. And I do go out, I belong to Courage to Care, and we go out to schools and we tell non-Jewish children about it. And the main message is not to be a bystander. When you see people being bullied, we ask the children, what do you do about it? And they say, what can we do? And we say, you're sitting there with a mobile phone, call somebody, ask for help. Don't be a bystander, be an upstander. And that's what I believe in. Always look out for things that are not right. Things that people are being nasty now to Chinese people here. What have they got to do with the Chinese communist system that exists there? You don't pick on people. It's and I'm asking you this also. Anti-Semitism is raising its ugly head all over. Be vigilant. Be an upstander. Learn to defend yourself. In my days, the religious Jews, we didn't know how to fight, but it doesn't exist anymore. We have Israel, and we've learned what we can achieve if we are not submissive to bad people.
Thank you, Dita. Really appreciate
That's
your time.
all right.
Perfect. You're amazing. Wishing you lots of
Very
strength.
happy that you managed to get those people together. And when this is all over, I will go anywhere to your group and be happy to do whatever you ask of me.
Thank you so much, Dita. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Thank you, Dita.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.